Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are so excited that you are here with us here on Co-working Live with Red Worldwide. And we are at the point today where we are mobile. And so, as you noticed, we had a little bit of a rough start getting in here today, but we are here. And so we're excited that you're here as well. And we're going to talk about being mobile and transient and the kinds of things that you might would take with you. On your mobile journey. A lot of us are having to transition back into being in person after being online for so long. And we still do about 80% of what we do online on a daily basis, but we are traveling a lot more. We're taking our services to places that are a little more remote, or we're getting to clients who may be in places where, us being hand over hand with them, right there in the room with them matters. And so this year we've been to many places. We've been to Hawaii. We've also been to Utah. We have been to, we've been to Florida a couple of times this year. We have been back and forth to Northern California, different areas, San Ramon, Stockton, Lodi, Pleasanton, Oakland, San Francisco. We've been in different parts of Texas. And so we are just excited about, being able to carry our business many different places. We've also been across the water. This year, we have not yet gone out of the country, but we will be going soon. And so it's always a pleasure for me to learn something new. I started off, taking the opportunity to travel really light. And when I would go from my office to the client's office, and we're talking years ago. I would have my van, and inside my van, I had built out a little table in there, and it had the little strap where I strapped down my laptop, and I could do a lot of work inside of my van. On the road, I would, sometimes pull up a client's file if they needed me to, and take care of some things. In the financial services realm, however, I find that my the things that I need to do is a little different than I did as a business advisor slash business coach back in the day. So it's become a scenario for me to learn how to do business better on the road. Means I need to learn how to do business smarter. I need to be safer, safer with client files, safer with my own items, because sometimes we travel to places where the security may not be as good as it is in other places. And so to make it so that we're not vulnerable, my husband and I, when we travel a certain way. We have recently started utilizing a different kind of system, which has us checking a bag, and putting very few things on the plane with us, because of we sometimes have to carry a lot of things if we're going to stay many days. However, if we're not going to stay many days and we can carry things onto the plane with us, and put it in the overhead bin and right under the seat, our second bag that we might both be carrying, a backpack or some sort of I have a rolling bag that I carry that can fit under the seat. It is, or it has been, I should say, our expressed pleasure to not try to carry as much, try to pack a little lighter, pack a little smarter. And so we're going to talk about some of those things that we use when we're doing that. So I'm going to share my screen in a minute. And when I do, I want to be able to bring up a few items that could, give you a visual of some of the things that I carry in my bag. Now, of course, let me just say this. Traditionally, again, being in financial services, and business advisory services, it has been, my plan, to not try to carry as many items, as I might would if I were traveling by car when I'm flying. Okay. So that means that the things we're going to talk about today are the things that I carry when I am traveling on a plane, not the things that I carry when I'm in the car. So this is my business everyday carry for when I am traveling, in such a light that I will be, in the vehicle only, after I've landed on a plane. Okay. So I landed off, landed and gotten off the plane. So with that said, everyday carry for mobile and transient business owners, people who are moving around a lot, there's some must-have gadgets, some must-have technology, and some must-have clothing items, and packaging items that I think are a way that helps us to become more I want to say more, proficient at what we do. And so we're going to start off with one of my main bags that, I utilize. And so I'm going to share my screen. And again, I'm on a tablet today. So my sharing is it's going to be just a little bit differently than I normally would share. But we're going to go to Amazon. And this wonderful bag was gifted to me from a very, very dear sister who is also a client, but she just felt like I needed to have it, and I was so blessed to receive it because it's a beautiful bag, but it also is a very useful bag. And so having had it now for a couple of years, it still looks amazing. The construction of it is very well put together, and I love the height and the fact that it's an adjustable height, to be able to pull the handle all the way up, which gives me the ability to hook my backpack or another bag onto this bag, which is great. Okay. And so, I want to kind of show the internal, you can get a lot of stuff in there. And I use packing cubes, and so having the opportunity to use a packing cube. A packing cube, of course, let me see if I can find one here. The ones that I use, I'll see if I can grab. No, it won't let me grab it that way. But I use packing cubes that are the ones that actually have the zippers. I know that I used to, from time to time, use packing cubes that were a little different. They had like a more envelope type of a deal. But I love these kind with the zippers because they actually work very, very, very well. And they can get your items down to a very small size, the size of sometimes a notebook or even smaller than that. And so I usually carry, if I'm using that bag, I'll usually carry two cubes. One is the little bit, we can look at these Lean Travel because this is a very similar brand to the ones that I use. But I'll use the one that's the middle size here and the larger one. And those two get me a week's worth of clothing and undergarments. And I'm not talking about just, a couple pairs of pants and a couple blouses. I can get literally, a week's worth of clothing in there, three or four pairs of pants or three pairs of pants and a couple of skirts and then some blouses in there and scarves because I'm big on scarves, because I like to dress it up or dress it down. And so based on that, these bags, they start off, kind of large and they can be zipped all the way down to these small sizes, which is amazing, and it gives you some options, in what you're carrying. So if you're doing like I'm doing, which I'm carrying it inside of the roller bag, then you can probably use this particular size here and zip it all the way down, and it works really, really well. So with that said, let's go back to the other bag so you can just kind of get imagine that inside of this bag, I'm normally able to fit either my MacBook Air and my iPad Pro, okay, on the side where the laptop would go. and then in the center section, the 2 packing cubes, my water bottle. Okay, I take my silver water bottle with me everywhere I go, for the most part, and usually I can take my little small makeup bag. Because this has pockets on the side, I can actually insert my phones there, and it just makes for an amazing, zipped up bag of everything that I need, my toiletries and makeup in the one little bag, my 2 packing cubes with my clothes and my laptop and my iPad, and so that's kind of how I work that particular program. So it works out really well, for me to do it that way. Um, and what I will also tell you is that, when I go down the street of doing it that way, what ends up happening is, I'm not often in a situation where, I'm having to find myself at a point of where I'm, needing anything extra or having to buy anything extra because, I've got everything usually that I need. Now, let's kind of talk about, what else I'll put in there in addition to my laptop and my iPad. I usually try to carry my tablet stand, okay, because if I'm for some whatever reason, and many times, I don't even use the laptop as much, the MacBook Air as much anymore. Matter of fact, on this trip that I'm on right now, I didn't even bring my laptop at all. I have a couple of iPads with me, and the tablet stand is one of those things that I take with me because if I need to set up so that I can actually see my iPad, a little bit higher, or in this case, I'm using the tablet stand for a different purpose because I brought along my mobile, or I should say my I guess it's, you would call it a uh, mobile or monitor, or and a portable monitor. And so I have my portable monitor with me, and I think I'm going to put that in here. I have one that's by KYY. It's the 15.6-inch version. And so this is an amazing monitor in that, this one, the way that they have it, it comes with its own case and it can sit on the table. But I like to actually have it on that stand that I just showed you so that it raises it up just a little bit higher so that I can have it right next to my iPad. And, I'm actually having a 2 screen experience with the iPad and the monitor. And it is just an amazing monitor. They touted for gaming, being gaming ready. It is. It's 1080p, and so it has got amazing colors, and you can get full HD on it if you want to go there, and so it really is a great addition and giving you the ability to have a full mobile office. I never forget recently when I was traveling and I had set up at a particular office. They were like, "Oh my gosh, you have everything that you would need to have a full office, right there in that little bag." And I was like, "Yeah, pretty much." And so it became a situation that I had to just think about what is most important. So this is a scaled down version, mind you. I don't carry everything that I have in my home office with me, but I can replicate a home office or my full office in Texas if I take these items that I have. So now I have replaced my Apple chargers with the Anchor USB C715. And my reason for doing that, they have this in I think it's a 65 watt and 100 watt. I just got the 65-watt one because it was, perfectly fine for me. I actually today charged my iPad Pro 11-inch M4 from about 40% to 100% in about 20 minutes with this particular fast charger. And so it was just an amazing thing. I plugged in and I had a full charge, in less than a half an hour. And I was like, yes, this works for me. And so I actually today, because I was in a very long session, I was able to go back and forth between both of my iPads while I was charging one. I was using the other one. And then I went back to because I was literally using one to actually scan the notes that they were sending us that were coming they were available over the air. and then the other device I was using as a notepad to jot down information on top of the slides that I have been looking at. And so it just made for, again, another way for me to have a 2 monitor setup. Now, let me just say this. When I'm in the hotel, I use both of my iPads, the iPad Pro, the 12.9 inch, which is the larger one, and the 11-inch, which is the smaller one, and my monitor, my portable monitor. And I actually have a 3-screen setup inside of the hotel room. And everything came out of that initial bag that I showed you. So I want you to be thinking about, the fact that it's doable, for you to be able to carry just that bag. Now, the one thing that I do want to say about what I do that's a little different. I've seen some people, try to fit everything in one bag. And I'll tell you that that's not usually my plan, because when I travel, I try to get a ticket that it will allow me the ability to have a carry-on and a personal item. So my personal item is usually going to be this particular bag. So let me just tell you, and I know that, again, the price points on these items are really nominal, in comparison. I mean, I have some nicer bags. I've got Coach, and some people have been very, very gracious to me and gifted me with some very expensive items. However, I have found that function beats out cost, for me. So I'll carry my Mosiso. This is for my 11-inch tablet, and I actually can fit both my 11-inch iPad Pro M4 and my iPad Mini inside of this bag. So in the front pocket here, I usually you'll see where it has the ability for you to put a phone and also a mouse. Well, because of the fact that I use my iPad Pro inside of the Magic Keyboard, which, actually already has a trackpad, I don't have to carry my mouse. It's not something that is absolutely necessary. So what I'll do instead is, in those pockets, I have 2 phones, and I have to carry both phones because one is for one business and the other is for the other. And so based on that, I have both of those phones in that pocket, along with my iPad Mini 6 inside of a case. And I zip that up with no problem. And it is very functional for me to carry those. I can, carry it as you see this lady here is carrying hers, or I can make it so that it's going to be a crossbody kind of party for me. But that ends up being my carry-on. And what I also do with that is I have a sleeve that I put, just for the sake of, safety and, germ-free environment on the plane. I have a little black sleeve that I put over the tray table on the airplane. And so I'll fold it up and stick it on the inside of the main pocket, along with my, the iPad Mini, the iPad Pro M4, and that allows me the ability to, keep a nicer, clean environment. I'll carry a couple of alcohol wipes in there as well, so that I can kind of wipe things down, and or I'll carry my Thieves hand sanitizer, and I'll spray that to wipe things down, usually with, a cloth that I'll carry in there. And then one thing else that it has is this little zipper pocket on the outside, and so that's usually where I put, where you see the right here, they have their cord for their iPad, or phone coming out of that. I'll put my cord in there. I'll put also my passport in there, or my passport card, and whatever main credit card that I'm using inside of my RFID wallet will go also in there, if I'm not using my cards on my phone, and so that's kind of how I travel. I try to, make it easy and simple, because again, sometimes I'm alone, not often, but I am, like I was on this trip, and I needed to make sure that everything was secure and easy for me to manage, without my husband being with me on this particular trip, until I got here. So now let me just add one more thing. I also do carry a power bank. And so I'll show you a power bank that I think would be one of the most the nicer ones that people could use. I have one that was gifted to me, and I absolutely love it, but it's not available anymore for sale on Amazon or anyplace else. So I can't really share that one, but I will share something that I think is comparable, and that's the Anchor Power Bank 24,000 milliamp 3-port portable charger, and it has a 140-watt output, a smart digital display, and it's compatible, of course, with the iPhones, the iPad Pro, the Samsung devices, as well as the MacBooks and AirPod as well. And the thing is that because of the fact that this packs so much power, it could very well charge 3 devices at once. And you can see that here. This gentleman is sitting here charging his MacBook and AirPods and some other device. It looks like his cell phone. Yeah. So, you could actually really use this device to charge, three devices at once. They have a newer one that's out, but this particular one right now, if you go get it, is for sale for 41% off, because the newer one is out. However, I find this one to be pretty sufficient for, quite a bit of charge. You can actually charge the iPhone 13, which is the one that I have, almost 5 times. Okay. Or the previous, not the M4, but the previous 12.9-inch iPad Pro, 1.3 times. And you can charge a MacBook once, the MacBook Air once, utilizing that power bank. And so, if you just need to get a little bit of charge off of, for your MacBook, and you need to charge your other devices, you could, pretty much top up everything, with this particular device. And so this is something that, I find to be very, very important. And if you notice, it has, yes, the 4.6 out of 5, stars, quite a few ratings at that higher amount, because it is a pretty reliable device. Okay, so we've talked about chargers, we've talked about tablet stands. Now let's kind of go someplace else. I want to kind of talk about the reason why I use the Apple devices, because I know that many people, they have preferences, for what it is that they would like in terms of their computers and things of that nature. Well, with what I do, and using the software that I use, a lot of everything, I would say a lot of what I use right now is available in the browser version, as well as available for Mac. It used to be at one point in time, some of the software that people were using for financial services were just not available for the Mac, or you had to use Parallels, which is a software that allows you, the ability to load a virtual environment, on your MacBook, or if you're on a PC and you want to load a virtual environment for Linux or some other operating system, you could do that with, Parallels or VMware or some of these other softwares. And so I have in the past, because I've been a Mac user since the 70s, and I have in the past used, I want to say, the Parallels. I've also used VMware back when Boot Camp was a thing on the MacBook, on the Mac computers. I used Boot Camp as well to get a PC environment on my Mac, because some software, like I said, wasn't available for Mac. However, that is almost never the case right now. There's only 2 softwares that I use that I just absolutely have to use a PC environment, Windows 11 or Windows 10, to get access to it. And so those 2 softwares are the only reason why I have Parallels right now. Okay, because they just don't make them for a PC, for anything but PC right now. But I have been able to get around that with almost everything, because there are so many softwares that now have a browser-based version. And even the one software that I have on my computer, which is the reason why I actually downloaded Parallels, now Adobe has made it such that you can utilize that software in a browser-based version. So it's really only left me with one software that I have to use, the PC environment for. And and I believe that within the next year or so, that probably won't be the case either anymore. So I'll be done with that, and I can just be happy inside of my Mac ecosystem. Now, for people who use PC, this is not in any way an indictment to the PC computer. I mean, I am a part of the Mac ecosystem and have been a long time. I did sales support for Mac back in the day on a contract. And like I said, since I was about, I want to say 11, 13, or 12 years old, I've been using Mac computers. So the very first computer that I ever touched was a Mac computer. So I only know what I know because of growing up in the Mac ecosystem. However, I did eventually have to gravitate to PC. At some point, doing some work in IT, I ended up building out PC systems. And, I know that world very much, and I know the software and the operating systems, from a long time ago. So I'm very familiar, but I prefer the Mac environment. So I want to make that really clear. This is a preference, and for ease of use, for portability, for a lot of reasons, that gives me the ability to do more with one ecosystem. I just choose it. I like to utilize my computer for a lot of things. And in my past, I've done a lot with music. I've designed software systems, for the internal of how a software should work, the user experience, and and the interface, utilizing my Mac computer for apps. At one point in time, I did a lot of development work, to build out using Xcode, some apps for the iPhone back in the early days with iPhone. And, and so I found that this is just the best thing for me. Okay. And I've converted a lot of other people when they say, I see all the things that I'm able to do with a Mac computer. And I don't care if I'm on my desktop, because I do have a desktop at home that doesn't have very much memory, so I want to say this. If you know what you're doing and you know what your device is capable of, then you adapt. You learn how, okay, I can't run 50 things, in the background working with a Mac computer that only has 8 gigabytes of RAM. It's not going to work. So what I have come to understand is that I learned how to work with the environment that I have been given at the time. So that particular computer I use for a specific purpose. If I need more processing power, then I have a MacBook Pro that actually it's an M3, and it has a lot of processing power. So I go to that one because I know that it's got, the 10 core and 12 core, and I can make it do what it does, and I don't have to worry about it having any kind of issue. I've never topped it out, maxed it out, not been able to figure how to do that on that particular computer. But that's the computer I use if I know I've got to do a heavy load, if I'm doing editing or something like that. But for the basics of how I use a computer every day, I'm able to use that iMac on my desk and make it do what I need it to do. It has a beautiful camera. It works really well. Now, we're talking about how do you do the mobile computing, though, when you're traveling. So to take what I'm used to, having the 2 computers and a wonderful, beautiful television monitor that I'm able to have in my environment, so that I end up with 3 screens and I can actually work, really well with that. On the road, I carry the portable monitor, the iPad Pro 11-inch and the iPad Pro 12.9 to get that same environment. So I can actually have one of the iPads connected to the portable monitor while I use the other iPad for either, sketching out things, using my pencil with it and keeping up with notes, or I can actually use it as a third screen, to actually have up on the side notes that I'm working with as I'm doing the work, utilizing the the computer and its alternate portable monitor next to it. And that's kind of how I work. That's my work ecosystem every day. And it works very well for me on the road. Now, I choose, if I'm going to carry a computer with me, I will not often carry the MacBook Pro. Why? Because it's heavy. Okay. And it takes up a lot more space because it's got a, it's a larger footprint. So what do I carry instead? Well, let me just kind of share that with you. Give me just a second and I'll bring that up because I think it's important for you to be able to see, what the options are. So, having access to, you know, um, my previous MacBook Air, okay, which is an M2. This one here that you're looking at is the M3, but this, the smaller one, there's a 13-inch, has been amazing. And it does what I needed to do if I do have to carry it on the road. If we're driving, like I said, it is a different kind of situation than if we're flying. And in this particular case, when we're driving, if, as we were a few weeks ago, I carried my 13-inch MacBook Air and my two iPads. Okay, because it made sense for me to be able to do that in a pinch. I was able to, if we had to go see a client, I just grabbed the iPad and we could go. And I could do pretty much everything that I normally would do on the MacBook Air with the iPad. However, there are some softwares that are not available yet on the iPad that I need the MacBook for. Okay. So, having that back at the, home front, wherever we're staying, if whether it's a hotel or whether it's, someone's home, it gives me the ability in a pinch, if I need to pull those softwares up and do some work, utilizing that particular software, I can do it and I have done it. Now, because I knew that coming on this trip, I would not necessarily need those softwares. And, I'm able to create the environment that I need, to be able to still serve my clients on the road with the iPads. This is what we're doing while we're on the plane. Okay, or while we were on the plane this time. All right, so just giving you an idea, in the with the ability of having the MacBook Air, because like I said, it's such a small footprint, you really can do a lot with it, and it is very light in comparison to the other MacBook. And so it gives you a lot of options, for not having to have such a heavy, load. Even though, again, I'm, rolling the bag, I still don't want to have to roll the bag, roll a 50-pound bag. Okay, let me just say it that way. So let's kind of take a look at the iPad Pro and options, that I have chosen, for what it is that I do. Now, we have not talked at all about price. Okay. What we're talking about right now is functionality. And so I will say this, about everything that I've shown you. I showed you the bag, the initial bag, the most that we paid, for anything, or that was paid for anything. Cause like I said, that was a gift to me, but that bag was $200. And then you could see the other choices were pretty much under, $40, everything that I've shown. And so that just kind of gives you an idea of my thought process, because I'm going for functionality, but I also, am looking at how can I do this economically, okay? And how can I get the most value out of what it is that I'm grabbing, and how can I get longevity out of it? So I choose items like, Anchor, the products made by Anchor and Ugreen, because of the sustainability that's built into the product, but also because of the longevity of the products. They're made of a quality material. They're not going to break easily. They're able to slip down in the bag because they don't take up much space. They don't, have a problem being banged around a little bit inside of a bag. So those are some of the things that I was looking for. And so even in thinking about the iPad Pro, I have an older model of the iPad Pro 12.9-inch. It was I think it's the M1 iPad, and it functions very well. Matter of fact, one of the things that I'll say is that iPad with the Magic Keyboard at the time when it was purchased, that was about $1,500 worth of equipment, and it was a stretch, for me to do it at the time. Even though I was doing it on payments, it was still a stretch because that was $50 a month. And so some people might know that I have shared this in previous episodes when we talked about purchasing equipment, if at all possible, get it on a lease, because things change, tech changes, and so being able to, buy something on a lease that you can upgrade at the end of the lease, when the new newer one comes out, if the software is no longer supported on that one, it does really make a lot of sense. But if you're in a situation where purchasing it over time and being able to keep it and re-gift it to someone else in your company or even in your family, makes more sense, then I will tell you, then that's going to be the way to go. Generally speaking, the life of an iPad Pro, and I need to say this because I want you to understand, and this is from my experience, okay? I can't tell you what other people's experiences are. I can tell you my experiences. I didn't run any data on this, even though I'm big on data. This is not one of those episodes where I ran the data. What I can tell you about is my experience. I've been able to have an iPad for a year, year and a half, gifted to someone else in our company or in our family, and they keep that device for a year, 2 years, okay? And we've gifted it 3 times before it actually just ran out of steam. We did that with some MacBook Airs a couple of years ago, where I used the MacBook Air for 2 years. I gifted it to my husband. He used it for a year, gifted it to our daughter. She had it until it ran out of steam last year before she got her new computer that she has. Well, not the new one she has now. She has a new, brand new, beautiful MacBook Pro now, but the computer that she got, because of the fact that she was in between computers, she used that MacBook Air, I want to say, for at least 2.5, 3 years. So, we got a lot of use out of that MacBook Air, and the same thing with the previous one. We had another one that we gifted to someone in our company, and I'm not quite sure how long she was able to use it, but I know that we got about 4.5 years use out of that device before it went on to someone else, and so I'm not one for trading my devices back, taking it back to Apple, even trading it to Best Buy or any of those other places that allow you to do that, because I just feel like the value is still in the device. And even if we're gifting it to our grandkids or, to our kids, we have been able to see that they have used those devices until they rode it till the wheels fell off. Okay. And so it's been, our express privilege to be able to, get the devices when we needed a new one, because we needed the upgrade to be able to have it do what we needed it to do to better serve us. We take those devices and we pass them to the next person that's able to use it. It still has a useful life, and we can figure out approximately how much useful life it has. And I will tell you that, generally speaking, I have used some devices between me and the other people that we pass it to as much as 10 years, so in terms of the value being in the device, paying $1,500 for this iPad Pro at the time when we did it, which was now almost 2 years ago. Well, actually, it is 2 years, I think, in another month. So with that said, with that device having it for about 2 years, I know that another 8 years out of that device is going to come from someone else having it. We literally ended up, when the device started failing, one of our other devices started failing, or something actually happened to it, it was still under Apple Care. And so we were able to take that device to the Apple Store, get a brand new one. So we got more years of useful life out of that one purchase. So I'm saying this, that if you spend a little more to purchase a device, just know that your years of useful life of that device is going to probably be about 8 years. And if you're careful with it and you take care of it, and when you start seeing something going wrong, take it back to the Apple Store. If you have Apple Care Plus, you can continue to renew your Apple Care Plus and pretty much keep that device going, and making sure that if you do have problems, you take it, and they'll give you a new one if they can't replace whatever it is that's going on. But if it's something like a simple battery replacement, they can do that in a day and you have your device back. I've had no problem with Apple either giving me a brand new device or fixing whatever was going on with it and creating more years of useful life for me with my devices, especially my iPads. And so I'm sharing that with you because I want you to understand the value. Now, I know that Kevin's on here and he is using an iPad. And so I'd love to be able to have him weigh in on this. Kevin, if you're still there, can you just chime in to tell me a little bit about what you're experiencing with your iPad?
Yeah, the iPad has been working really, really well. It's very functional, and for everything that I need to do, it serves me well. And it was a little bit, there was a little bit of a learning curve for me because I was used to Android products and PCs, and PC and Android tablets as well. So now I really like how easy it is to use. Very simple.
Awesome. And I know for portability, because you're transient in business as well. You do a lot of
Yeah.
business on the go. What do you experience, being able to just take that iPad and just kind of slip it in your bag? I mean, how is it a simple process, or do you feel, vulnerable having it? Or, talk to us and tell us how what your experience is.
No, it's been a very simple process. I take it on the go because I have lots of different meetings that I do, Zoom meetings, and so I need to have the portability and the ease of use, and it's small enough that it comfortably fits in like a shoulder bag that I have, and it folds up nicely and it's covered, and the battery lasts a long time.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
the 10-hour battery life. And so that's something I hear a lot of people talking about. Well, it's not really 10 hours or whatever. I can attest to this, that if you change your battery, your settings inside of the iPad can be changed so that you don't have so many things running in the background. And by making those simple changes, and we'll do another day where we talk about, software and things that you can do with your device to make it last longer, to make your battery last longer on the go, but also to make the longevity of the actual battery, to extend the battery life. How you treat your device can really, weigh in on whether or not the battery will last long, or whether it's going to, be a situation where you're having to have a battery replacement. One of the things that I learned, and I'll just share this little tidbit today before we do that particular episode, is that by only allowing your device to charge to 80%, which you can make that change inside of the device, you extend the battery life, because it doesn't have as many battery cycles when it's only charging to 80%. And so, that's a good way to make sure that you don't have to have a battery replacement. I wish somebody would have told me that before, because I have had to have the battery recently replaced on my iPhone. I had an iPhone 12 that I absolutely loved, and I didn't want to get rid of it. I didn't want to have to have a new one, or buy a new phone. And I just noticed that I was having a really hard time keeping a charge. And I took it into the Apple store, and it was still under the Apple Care, and they replaced the battery in it in a few hours. And so it now, I mean, the battery lasts very long, and I'm utilizing battery management the way that they showed me how to do at the Apple store, by only allowing it to charge, to a certain amount. It just makes so that I'll be able to have that phone a lot longer, and not have to replace it with some newer phone. So I'm just sharing that because for people who don't really realize the things that you can do to extend your battery life, but you can also put your phone on low battery mode, which is something else, and I do that with my iPad as well. If I'm not needing all the processing power of having a bunch of things running in the background, I'm only using two or three, things at the same time on my screen, I'll just turn it on low battery mode so that I can actually get more battery time out of the amount or the percentage of battery that I have left. And in the electric car world, we call that putting it on eco mode. And we do that, also with our devices, to extend the amount of battery, because sometimes you're in the field, you may not have access to your charger, you might have left it behind, or whatever the situation is. And in my case, I've done that a few times. So I've had to go into low battery mode to make sure that I didn't lose anything. So let's kind of take a look at, what particular iPads might work best for whom. So because we only have a few more minutes, but I chose the iPad Pro because of the processing power that I need. I'm sometimes, in a situation where I'm doing multiple things at the same time. I've got a couple of different windows up, while I'm in a browser, which takes the most processing power inside of Chrome, running a couple of applications, while I'm working on our financial, plans for clients or their taxes or some other thing that is going to be in a software that's taking a lot of power. And then I might also have something else up, because I'm actually doing the model for what it is that I'm working on inside of QuickBooks. And so I'll have to type all that stuff into Word or into some other note-taking software. And as a result of that, I'll need that processing power that's required to do, those financial analysis. Sometimes I'm running multiple calculators in the background, whether it's an estate planning calculator or something else, so I need to have the ability for the computer to do what it does. And so on an iPad, I don't want it to be any different. I don't need to see any lag time. I don't need for my device to cut off. I need to be able to have it do what it does. So I chose the iPad Pro for that purpose. However, for other purposes, I have an iPad mini. So if I'm needing to read something or have it, playing some audiobook, or if I'm needing to do something quick, if we're out and I need to just pull it out of my bag and, handle something very quickly, the iPad mini is going to be my choice. Why? I'm less vulnerable with that small device. People are not, able to see my screen as easily. And we'll talk about some screen protectors that you can use in a different episode, but to have more privacy. However, the larger your screen is, the more people can see. And if I'm working on a client file, I don't want people to be able to see what I'm doing. So I try to make it so that I don't put anyone's information in a position where, others can see it. So I'll have the smaller iPad and I'm using that, at an angle and doing the things that I need to do to keep things safe, if I'm just having to do something quick. But, price points, you can get an iPad Pro, from $999 all the way down to, well, that's the lowest amount if you're getting the newer one. However, right now you can buy the older iPad Pro for I think it's like $659 on a couple of websites that I've seen. And so if you're really interested in that, I'll give you some other information, and make it so that you'll know where to go. There are a couple of places where you can go to buy renewed devices and also brand new devices that they no longer carry in the Apple store. And so that might be something that you would be interested in, to get brand new in the box, but it's just a previous version for a lot less money. Okay. And if you don't need all of the extra processing power, but you need what an iPad Pro can do, then that would be the way I would suggest for you to go. Now, the iPad Air can give you a lot of what the Pro gives you, and it's the same sizes generally, but it's a $300 price difference. So, that might be a solution for some people. And if you are, having phone service with AT&T or, T-Mobile or some of these other companies, you can almost always get, one of these devices at about between anywhere down from $20 a month all the way up to about $50 a month, to get the type of device that you're looking at with cellular signal, so that might be a consideration. The iPad mini right now, the iPad is going for $349, and so it's a very nice device. And you can do a lot with it. If you're not a person that needs, a lot of what the Pro is, requiring, your life doesn't require a Pro, an iPad itself might be the way for you to go. And I know people that run whole companies with just a regular iPad and a keyboard. So I am telling you that this might be the way to go. And they have keyboards, for all of these, which are amazing. There's a Magic Keyboard Folio for the regular iPad, a Magic Keyboard for the iPad Air, and a Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro. So you can have almost what they call a laptop replacement with all three of these, by just connecting it to the keyboard, and you get the ability to have a floating device, and with the keyboard and a trackpad. So for most people, this is as much as you might would need. And we're about out of time right now, but I just wanted to make sure that you understood the options that you have, because you do have a lot of options for being able to be mobile in business, running your company, and doing it very, very smart, and safe. Having the smaller devices, I will tell you, does make you a lot less vulnerable when you're not having to, have all of this stuff and, positioning yourself so that you are easy target, or for that matter, you might lose something by, having the everything in kind of in a disheveled way. I've never lost a device before. However, I have been in a situation where, I was vulnerable for someone to try to take my device. And I thank God had people around me who knew what was going on. And so I was able to, not be in that situation for long. And so I will say this to you, that if you're traveling and you're doing business, in a transient way, because you're moving around from place to place, you always want to be thinking about, how do I keep my devices safe? What is it that I can use, to make sure that I'm able to do this and do it well? And, how am I, positioned, with these devices so that I can make sure that I'm able to do everything that I need to do. Okay. So with that said, I am hopeful that you were able to get as much as possible from this live today. And we look forward